Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Emma.
And I'm Max. We're really excited to talk about something that can really make a big difference in your English learning group learning.
Right, Max, learning English alone can feel hard sometimes, but when you learn with others, it can be a lot more fun and helpful. Today, we'll be exploring how working with others can make learning easier, faster, and, yes, more enjoyable.
Yes, so let's start by asking, why is group learning so powerful? Well, when you're with others, you get to hear different ways of speaking, different accents, and even new words or phrases. You get exposed to English in a way that's more real and full of variety.
Exactly, Max. And think about it when you make a mistake. Sometimes you may not notice it. But in a group, someone else might catch it and help you correct it. It's like having a small team that's there to help you get better every time you speak.
That's so true, Emma, and you know, when you're learning alone, it's easy to get discouraged. Maybe you don't know if you're improving. In a group, though, you can actually feel your progress, especially when you see how others are improving too.
Yes, seeing progress in yourself and others can really build your confidence, and group learning is also motivating. When you know you're meeting up with others to practice, you feel excited to show what you've learned. It gives you a reason to keep going.
Definitely, Emma. Plus, it's a lot easier to stay committed to your goals when others are involved. If you're learning on your own, it's easy to skip a day, right? But with a group, you'll think everyone else will be there, so I should go too. It keeps you on track.
And let's talk about some examples of group learning. Maybe some of you are thinking, what does group learning look like? Do I have to join a big class? Not at all. Group learning can be as simple as practicing with a friend or joining a small conversation group.
Yes, or even online study groups where you connect with people from around the world. And here's something interesting: each person in a group brings something unique. Maybe one person is really good with vocabulary and another is great with grammar. You can all learn from each other's strengths.
Exactly, Max. And you know, one great part of group learning is role-playing. It's like acting, but in English. Let's say you're practicing ordering food at a restaurant. In a group, one person can be the customer and another can be the waiter. It's fun and it feels real.
That's such a good example, Emma, and doing role plays helps you remember the phrases because you're actually using them, not just reading them in a book. And if someone forgets a word, others can help fill in the blanks. It's supportive.
Another benefit of group learning is that you get instant feedback. Let's say you're struggling with pronunciation. A friend or group member can quickly say, "Oh, try it like this." That way, you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over.
Absolutely. Pronunciation can be tricky, and having people around to gently correct you is really helpful. Plus, in a group, you can compare how you say words and practice until everyone gets it right.
And there's another thing: max group learning doesn't always feel like studying, which is great. Often, it feels like hanging out with friends, having fun, and using English at the same time. You get to laugh, share stories, and talk about interesting topics, which keeps things exciting.
I agree. Learning in a relaxed environment is so important. When you're relaxed, you're more open to learning. You don't feel as worried about making mistakes, and you actually enjoy speaking English more.
Speaking of enjoying it more, there's also something special about learning cultures in a group. You can talk about how people use English in different countries, the types of slang they use, and even fun expressions that you might not find in textbooks.
Yes, cultural exchange is a big part of group learning. You might even have group members from different backgrounds, which is like opening up the world while learning English. You learn more than just the language. You get a whole new understanding of how people live and communicate.
And all of these things help with fluency. When you speak with a group, you get used to answering questions, reacting quickly, and even guessing what someone might say next. It really trains your mind to think in English.
Exactly, and you're also practicing listening skills because in a group, there are different voices, accents, and speeds. Listening to all of these helps you understand English better in real-life situations.
Plus, in a group, you're not just speaking, you're also learning how to listen actively. You learn to pay attention to what others are saying, to really listen, and to respond naturally. It's a key skill for conversation.
Yes, and that's a good point. Emma, listening is half of communication. The better you listen, the better your responses will be, and that makes conversations smoother and more enjoyable.
So, group learning helps with speaking, listening, confidence, and motivation. It's like a complete package that helps you improve all around. And it can also make you more responsible and committed to learning. When you know others are expecting you, you feel motivated to show up and do your best.
Exactly, Emma. Group learning brings out the best in each person, and it helps everyone grow faster and better. Plus, it's fun to share the journey with others. Learning together makes every step feel less challenging and more rewarding.
Absolutely, the journey is more enjoyable when you share it. You're not alone, and you're not doing this just for yourself. You're part of a team, and everyone's working together to improve.
Yes, and there's a real power in that. When you're in a group, you don't just learn English, you make connections, and you feel supported. You feel like you're part of something bigger.
That's so well said, Max, and it really makes a difference in how you view learning. Instead of thinking, "Oh, I have to study," you start thinking, "I get to practice with my friends." It changes everything.
So, welcome back, everyone. In our last talk, we explored a lot of great reasons why group learning is so powerful. Let's keep going with even more ways that learning English in a group can make a big difference.
Yes, and there's so much more to cover. You know, Max, one thing I've noticed is that in a group, you can pick up different learning techniques. Everyone has their own way of learning, and when you're in a group, you can see what works best for others and maybe try it for yourself.
Exactly. Let's say you have someone in your group who is great at remembering new words because they make flashcards. You might see that and think, "Hey, maybe I'll try that too." It's like you get a mini class on learning tips just by being around other people who are also trying to improve their English.
That's a great point, Max. And sometimes you get surprised by how creative people can be. Someone might have a fun game for learning vocabulary or a cool way of practicing pronunciation. You might not think of these on your own, but in a group, you have access to so many ideas.
Yes, learning from each other's creativity can make studying feel fresh and interesting. And it's amazing how these little tips from others can actually speed up your learning. When you're in a group, you're not just learning English. You're learning how to learn, and that skill helps with everything.
And you know, Max, when you see someone who is doing really well in one area, like pronunciation or grammar, it can be inspiring. It gives you something to aim for because you're seeing success right there in front of you.
Absolutely, Emma. Group learning often pushes us to do our best. When you're around others who are trying hard, you feel encouraged to do the same. It's like a positive competition, not to see who is the best, but to see how everyone can improve together.
Yes, exactly. And even if you're at different levels, everyone has something valuable to add. Sometimes, the person who struggles with pronunciation may be fantastic at vocabulary. It's not about who's better. It's about bringing everyone's strengths to the group.
That's a great way to look at it, Emma, and speaking of that, I think group learning teaches patience and empathy, too. When you see that others also make mistakes, you start to feel better about your own mistakes. You understand that learning a language is hard work, and it's okay to stumble a bit along the way.
That's so true, Max. And in a group, you're more likely to say, "It's okay, keep going." When someone makes a mistake, and they'll say the same to you, it's like having a built-in support system that helps everyone feel more comfortable with trying and learning.
Yes, and you know that comfort is really important. When you feel relaxed, you learn faster. When we're distressed about making mistakes, it's like our brain just freezes up. In a group where everyone feels comfortable, you're free to practice without that pressure.
Right, Max. It's almost like you're in a little family where everyone wants to help each other. And here's something interesting. Studies show that when people feel relaxed, they actually remember more. So, a friendly and relaxed group really can help you retain more of what you're learning.
That's a great fact, Emma, and it's so true. I remember times when I was learning, and when I was relaxed, the words just came more naturally. But if I was tense or worried about making mistakes, I would just forget everything.
Yes, and another benefit of group learning is getting exposure to a variety of conversation topics. When you learn alone, you may focus on the same type of practice exercises. But in a group, each person brings something new to talk about.
Yes, one day someone might want to talk about a movie they watched. Another day, someone might bring up a news story or even something funny that happened at work. It keeps the conversation interesting and it helps you practice English in many different situations.
Exactly, Max. And each topic brings new vocabulary. For example, if someone talks about a sports game, you might learn sports-related words. If another person talks about their job, you might learn some business vocabulary. It's like getting a tour of all different kinds of English, just from listening and joining in.
And the best part is that these are real conversations. You're not just reading or repeating sentences, you're actually participating. And when you have to respond to different topics, you build your quick thinking skills in English.
Quick thinking is such a great skill to develop. When you learn to respond in real time, you start thinking in English, not just translating in your head. And that's what helps you reach fluency faster.
Yes, and speaking of thinking in English, one amazing thing about group learning is that you get to see how others express their ideas. Maybe someone says something in a different way than you would, and you think, oh, I like that phrase. Then you can try it out yourself next time.
Right, Max. That's a fantastic way to expand your vocabulary naturally. When you hear someone say, "That sounds interesting," instead of just "I like it," you're learning new ways to express the same idea. It's like building a toolbox of phrases.
And each phrase you learn helps you sound more natural when you speak. Plus, it's exciting to try out these new expressions with the group. And if something doesn't sound quite right, your group can help you adjust it, so you're always improving.
That's such a great point. And you know, Max, group learning also teaches you how to adjust your speaking. For example, in a conversation, you might learn to speak slower for someone who's new to English, or use simpler words if they don't understand.
Yes, that's a key skill for communication, learning how to adjust for your listener. In a group, you become more aware of others and practice being clear. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it so everyone can understand.
And those are skills you'll use all the time, not just in learning English, but in life. When you learn to adjust for others, you become a better communicator in every situation.
Absolutely, Emma, and it's a skill that goes both ways, too. In a group, you learn to ask questions if you don't understand something. You feel comfortable saying, "Can you explain that?" or "Could you say that again?" And that's such a helpful habit for real-world conversations.
Yes, asking questions is a big part of learning, and it's something we sometimes feel shy about. But in a group, you feel safer to ask because everyone is learning together. And often, someone else has the same question, so you're not alone.
Exactly, and each question leads to a better understanding for everyone. When one person asks, the whole group learns from the answer. So, your questions actually help others, too.
That's a wonderful way to look at it. And there's something else I think is really valuable in group learning: celebrating each other's successes. When someone finally gets a tricky word right, or when someone completes a sentence without mistakes, the group can cheer them on.
I love that part, Emma. Celebrating little victories makes the process joyful. It reminds everyone that every step forward, even a small one, is worth noticing, and it helps build confidence.
Exactly, Max. Group learning helps you see that learning a language is a journey, not a race. Each step matters, and each improvement counts. And when others celebrate with you, it makes each success feel even bigger.
And confidence is such a huge part of speaking a new language. The more you feel confident, the more you're willing to speak and try. It's like a cycle of confidence that keeps building as you go.
Yes, and I think that's what makes group learning so special. You feel brave enough to speak up, even if you make mistakes, because you know everyone else is there to help, not judge.
Absolutely, Emma, it's a space to grow, experiment, and just enjoy the process of learning together. There's no pressure to be perfect, only a shared goal to improve and have fun while doing it.
Well said, Max, and for anyone listening, if you've ever felt nervous about speaking English, just remember that in a group, you're not alone. You have people with you who understand what it's like, who are there to support you, and who want to see you succeed.
Exactly, Emma, and that sense of community is so powerful. It turns learning into something social, supportive, and even fun. And when learning is enjoyable, you stick with it and you reach your goals faster.
So let's keep going with more reasons why group learning can be one of the best ways to learn English. I was thinking, Max, about how groups can help create real-life practice, which can be a huge help for building fluency.
Yes, Emma, real-life practice is such a big part of learning a language. In a group, you're constantly using English in real conversations, and that helps you learn the way people actually speak. It's very different from just learning from a textbook.
Exactly. In a group, you get to have back-and-forth conversations. That kind of practice teaches you to listen, respond, and think quickly, just like you would in real life.
Yes, and the more you practice like that, the more natural English feels. You're training your brain to understand and respond in English without having to translate everything in your head.
That's so true. And you know, when you practice speaking regularly with a group, it also helps you build rhythm and flow. It's not just about saying the words, it's about saying them smoothly, like a native speaker would.
Yes, rhythm and flow make a huge difference. And in a group, you hear different speaking styles, which helps you become more flexible in how you listen and respond.
Right, and I think it helps with confidence too. When you've practiced a lot with a group, you start feeling ready to use English in other situations like at work, with new friends, or when you're traveling.
Yes, exactly. It's almost like the group becomes a safe place to test out your English. You make mistakes, learn from them, and get better each time. Then, when you're out in the real world, you feel more prepared.
And let's talk about mistakes for a second. In a group, you get to see that everyone makes them. You're not alone. You might hear someone else make the same grammar mistake you do, and you realize, oh, it's not just me. That can be really comforting.
Yes, absolutely. Emma, seeing others make mistakes and keep going teaches you that mistakes are a natural part of learning. And when you're not afraid of mistakes, you become more willing to speak up and practice.
Definitely. And another thing about groups is the chance to build strong relationships. When you're learning together, you create a bond, and that makes the experience enjoyable. You start to look forward to your sessions because you're not just learning English, you're spending time with friends.
That's so true. Having a group to look forward to can make learning feel less like work and more like a fun hangout. You have people who encourage you, listen to you, and are happy to see you improve.
Yes, and I think that's such a powerful motivator. When you know your group is rooting for you, it gives you that extra push to keep going, even when English feels hard.
It really does, Emma, and for those of you listening, if you've ever felt stuck or unmotivated in learning English, joining a group can give you that boost you need. The support and encouragement can make a big difference.
Absolutely, Max. And there's another thing I love about group learning: getting different cultural perspectives. When you're in a group, especially an international one, you're not just learning English. You're learning about each other's cultures.
That's a great point, Emma. In a group with people from different backgrounds, you get to hear about different customs, traditions, and ways of thinking. It's like a mini travel experience without leaving the room.
Yes, and it makes learning English so much more interesting. You might learn a phrase or slang that's common in one country but not in another, or hear about a holiday you've never celebrated. It adds a lot of depth to your learning.
And it's not just fun, it's also practical. If you ever travel or work with people from other countries, knowing a bit about their culture can help you connect with them more easily.
That's true, Max. Learning a language is about communication. And communication isn't just words, it's understanding the person you're talking to. Group learning gives you that experience, so you become a more well-rounded communicator.
Exactly, Emma, and it also reminds us that English is a global language spoken by people from all over the world. There's no one right way to speak it. Each accent, each phrase, and each culture adds something unique.
And that's a really beautiful thing about group learning. It teaches you to appreciate these differences and see the richness in all the ways English is spoken. It's not just learning English, it's learning how English connects people across the world.
Well said, Emma, and for those listening, this is one of the best parts of group learning. It's not just about language. It's about understanding and connecting with others.
Exactly, Max. And before we finish, let's remind everyone that group learning is about support, fun, and growth. It's not a competition. It's a journey you're taking together.
Yes, Emma, and as you learn together, you're building confidence, learning new skills, and becoming more fluent every day.
So if you've been wondering whether to join a group or start a study group with friends, just remember all the benefits we've talked about today. Group learning is such a powerful way to grow your English skills.
And for everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this journey through the power of group learning in English. If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
And please share this with your friends and family who are also learning English. We'd love to hear about your experiences with group learning, so feel free to leave a comment.
Yes, tell us about your learning groups or any group study tips you have. We're excited to keep this conversation going.
Thanks again for listening. Everyone, keep learning, keep practicing, and remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Bye, everyone. Good luck with your English, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, and happy learning!